Clint Eastwood's legendary journey. Iconic films from A Fistful of Dollars to The Mule Chapter 1. The outsider who couldn't get a break. Before he was the man with no name. Before Dirty Harry, before Oscars and standing ovations, Clint Eastwood was just another face in the Hollywood crowd. Rejected, underestimated, and told he'd never make it. Born in 1930 in San Francisco, Eastwood grew up during the Great Depression, the son of a restless working-class father who moved the family constantly. Oakland, Sacramento, Los Angeles, always chasing work, never staying long enough to belong. That rootlessness left a mark, not bitterness but resilience, a belief that you don't wait for opportunity, you build it yourself. He tried college, dropped out, joined the Army, worked as a lifeguard, a logger, a gas station attendant. At 23, he wandered into Universal Studios on a lark, hoping to land an acting gig. The studio signed him to a $75 a week contract, but not because they believed in him. They thought his jawline was photogenic. Nothing more. For years, he floundered. Small roles, TV gigs, bit parts in forgettable westerns. Critics called his acting wooden. Directors said he didn't emote. Even his big break, Rawhide, 1959–1965, felt like a trap. He played Rowdy Yates, a clean-cut cowboy sidekick, for 6 years. The show was popular, but Eastwood hated it. "I felt like a mannequin," he once said. Smile on cue, say the line, go home. By 1964, at 34, he was considered past his prime. Washed Up, a TV relic, then came a script from Italy. A low-budget remake of Yojimbo set in the Old West. No big stars, no Hollywood backing, just a young, unknown director named Sergio Leone and a desperate need for a lead. Eastwood took the job for $15,000, not because he believed in it, but because he had nothing to lose. He flew to Spain, slept in rented rooms, ate beans and bread, and stepped onto a sun-baked set in Almeria, wearing a borrowed poncho and boots 2 sizes too big. And everything changed. Chapter 2. A Fistful of Dollars, 1964. The Birth of a Ghost when A Fistful of Dollars premiered in Italy in 1964. It wasn't just a hit. It was a cultural earthquake. Here was a Western unlike any before. Brutal, operatic, morally gray. No noble sheriffs. No clear villains. Just a nameless stranger, Eastwood, playing 2 gangs against each other for profit. Eastwood's performance was revolutionary because it wasn't a performance. He didn't wink at the camera, didn't deliver heroic monologues. He squinted. He smoked. He moved like a shadow. And Ennio Morricone's score, whistles, electric guitar, whip cracks, turned tension into poetry. Hollywood hated it, called it violent trash, tried to block its U.S. release over legal issues. It was an unofficial Yojimbo remake. But in Europe, it exploded. Suddenly, Eastwood wasn't Rowdy Yates. He was the man with no name, a myth in the making. And Leone knew this was only the beginning. Chapter 3. For a Few Dollars. More, 1965. The Duel of Souls. Leone didn't just make a sequel. He made a symphony of obsession. This time Eastwood returned as Manco, the one-armed. But the real story belonged to Colonel Mortimer, Lee Van Cleef, a bounty hunter driven by vengeance for his sister's murder. Their uneasy alliance against the psychopathic outlaw Indio, Gian Maria Volonté, wasn't just about money. It was about trauma, time, and the ticking clock of fate. The film deepened Eastwood's persona, still silent, but now layered with irony, cunning, even humor. And that pocket watch that chimed before every kill? It wasn't just a prop. It was a metronome of doom. Critics began to take notice. Audiences were mesmerized. And Eastwood? He was learning, watching Leone frame shots, build silence, use music as narrative. He was absorbing the language of cinema, not as an actor, but as a future director. Chapter 4. The Good, the Bad and the Ugly, 1966. The epic that rewrote cinema. If the first two films were sonnets, this was a symphony. Set during the American Civil War, The Good, The Bad and the Ugly elevated the trilogy to mythic scale. Eastwood's Blondie, Lee Van Cleef's Angel Eyes, and Eli Wallach's Tuco weren't just characters. They were archetypes. The stoic, the merciless, the chaotic. The film's genius lay in its anti-war heart. Amidst the gold hunt, Leone showed war for what it was: absurd, wasteful, dehumanizing. The famous bridge scene, "I've never seen so many men wasted so badly," wasn't just dialogue. It was Eastwood's quiet moral center speaking. And the cemetery standoff? 10 minutes of unbearable tension. No music at first. Just eyes, wind, sweat. Then Morricone's The Trio erupts. And cinema is never the same. Though butchered in its initial U.S. release, the film's full version, restored in 2004, is now hailed as one of the greatest films ever made. For Eastwood, it was the end of an era. He walked away from The Man with No Name forever. Not because he was done, but because he'd outgrown him. Chapter 5. Dirty Harry, 1971. The cop who changed America back in Hollywood, Eastwood wasn't resting. He was building his own empire. In 1967, he founded Malpaso Productions, demanding creative control, a radical move for an actor. And in 1971, he unleashed Harry Callahan, a San Francisco inspector who asked criminals, "Do I feel lucky?" "Well, do ya, punk?" Dirty Harry was raw, violent, and polarizing. Critics called it fascist. Activists said it glorified vigilantism. But audiences saw something else. A man tired of bureaucracy, who took action when the system failed. Eastwood didn't see Harry as a hero. He saw him as a necessary evil, a man doing a dirty job in a dirtier world. The film spawned 4 sequels over 12 years, but its real impact was cultural. It defined 1970s cinema's gritty realism. It made Eastwood a box office titan. And it proved he could carry a film without a poncho or a horse. Chapter 6. The director emerges from play. Misty for me to Unforgiven while acting. Eastwood was quietly studying the other side of the camera. In 1971, he directed his first film, Play Misty for Me, a psychological thriller about obsession, shot in Carmel, starring himself and Jessica Walter. It was lean, suspenseful, and shockingly assured for a debut. More importantly, it showed Eastwood's instinct for economy. Less dialogue, more atmosphere. Less action, more dread. Over the next 2 decades, he directed nearly 20 films. Some hits: The Outlaw Josie Wales, $1 Million Baby. Some misses: The Rookie, all authored. But it was Unforgiven, 1992, that changed everything. Conceived in the 1970s, but waited to make until he was old enough to understand regret, Unforgiven was Eastwood's reckoning with his own legacy. Here was William Money, a killer trying to be good, failing, and drowning in guilt. "No one ever knew I was that wicked," he whispers. The film didn't celebrate violence. It mourned it. At the 1993 Oscars, Unforgiven won Best Picture and Best Director. Eastwood, 62, stood on stage and said simply, "This is for Sergio." It was the ultimate tribute, from the student to the master. Chapter 7. The Later Years. Quiet films for a loud world after Unforgiven. Eastwood could have retired a legend. Instead, he doubled down. He made intimate dramas: $1 Million Baby, Mystic River, historical epics, Letters from Iwo Jima, musicals, Jersey Boys, and political films, American Sniper. Each one bore his signature: silence over speeches, character over plot, moral ambiguity, over easy answers. $1 Million Baby, 2004, was perhaps his most heartbreaking, a film about love, sacrifice, and the unbearable weight of mercy. It won him another Best Director Oscar. Letters from Iwo Jima, 2006, was revolutionary. A one film told from the Japanese perspective, humanizing the enemy with grace and sorrow, and American Sniper, 2014, a lightning rod. But Eastwood wasn't glorifying war. He was showing its cost on one man's soul. Through it all, he worked faster, cheaper, and quieter than anyone his age, or any age. Chapter 8. The Mule, 2018. The Old Man and the Road 88. Eastwood directed and starred in The Mule, the true story of Earl Stone, a 90-year-old horticulturist who becomes a drug mule for the cartel. On the surface, it's a crime drama, but beneath, it's a meditation on regret, redemption, and the need to be useful. Earl isn't a hero. He's a man who failed his family, and now, in his twilight, seeks one last chance to make amends. Critics called it sentimental, but those who've lived long enough understood. This was Eastwood speaking to himself. The film's most powerful scene? Earl in prison calls his ex-wife. Doesn't ask for forgiveness, just says, "I'm sorry I wasn't there." No music, no tears, just truth. And in that moment you realize Eastwood wasn't just making a movie. He was living it. Epilogue. The man who never stopped today. At 94, Eastwood is still working. His latest film, Juror número 2, 2024, premiered at Venice. He's already prepping the next one. He doesn't do it for money. He doesn't do it for fame. He does it because filmmaking is how he breathes. From a $15,000 gig in Spain to Oscar nights in Hollywood, Clint Eastwood's journey isn't just about iconic films. It's about integrity, about showing up when no one expects you to, about evolving even when the world wants you frozen in time. He gave us anti-heroes, cops, boxers, soldiers, and ordinary men facing impossible choices. But his greatest role was always himself, the outsider who refused to quit, the artist who owned his work, the man who believed that less is more, and silence speaks loudest. And as long as there are stories worth telling, he'll be there to tell them, from Buzz of Legends, where we don't just list films, we follow the soul behind the lens. If this journey moved you, please like, subscribe, and join us as we honor the artists who didn't just make movies, they made meaning.